Hey guys, Weeb here. Welcome back to another video by Variety MMOs. In today's video, we're going to be covering the Sorceress class in Lost Ark. The Sorceress class is the one of two mage classes that you will be able to begin with in Lost Ark. It is a long-range damage dealer that can use 3 different types of abilities: ice, lightning, or fire, in different combinations to do a nice amount of damage. The Sorceress class is honestly the most enjoyable class that I used while leveling up. It may not necessarily be the fastest, but just this nice AoE, long range DPS, and different types of flashy abilities just made it really enjoyable to play. This class, while leveling, I wasn't concerned with how long it would take to level because I really enjoyed it that much. So it's definitely a class I could recommend for anybody to try out. So combining fire, ice, and lightning, you're going to be taking down enemies rather rapidly when leveling. The only real downside to this class is that you are kind of limited when it comes to your defense. So if you get attacked by a boss a couple of times, you're probably going to get wiped out, but that's really not too much of an issue in storyline unless you're in hard dungeons. So in today's guide, we're going to have a look at some abilities for you to use on the sorcerers to help you level quickly while avoiding damage. And then we're going to have a look at all of the class abilities that give you a general idea of how the class can be played. Then we're going to go and have a look at a cube and chaos dungeon build to help you farm the in-game content to get the items required to get into raids. Okay, so let's look at the abilities for the sorcerer. So these will be your first abilities that you unlock: Blaze, Energy Blast, Lightning Vortex, Winter's Calling, Wind Blast, Tsunami, Inferno, and Divine Wrath, along with your first awakening, which you won't get until much further in the game, but we will look at it. Keep in mind these translations may differ depending on the patch or version that you're playing on. So let's spawn some monsters and have a look. And the awakening ability, as you can see, much more powerful because that's a much higher level ability. I should probably mention here your state abilities in this character. So if you click the Z key, you basically just get a buff to basically everything, and that, which you can use on your abilities, and it'll go down over time. I generally just use this on bosses. If you have a bit of cooldown, engage, you can use the X key to jump around, but as you can see, it uses your charge. So just think of it as another dash where you can easily go spacebar, dash, dash to get away from bosses or just run through dungeons because grouping up is faster. Okay, so the second set of abilities are Reverse Gravity, Needle Ice, Lightning Bolt, Elemental React, Ice Arrows, Explosion, Elegance Touch, Doomsday, and your second awakening is Apocalypse Calling. So let's spawn some mobs and have a look at them. And your awakening ability, Doomsday. Apocalypse Calling. Apologies. As you can see, it pretty much is the Apocalypse ability, just wipes everything off the map. Okay, so that covers the basic abilities for the sorcerer. We're now going to jump in and have a look at your abilities you should be using while leveling up to give you a nice and speedy leveling experience. So for the leveling abilities, I generally use Blaze, Tsunami, Divine Wrath, Winter's Calling, Needle Ice, Explosion, Elemental React, and followed up by Elegance Touch. So all of these abilities currently have their ability points in them, which has slightly changed them. So we're going to have a look at the abilities that we use and then talk about when we use them. And I'm also going to put a general guide link underneath the video, which will give you an idea of where to put your points. So early on, you're going to put your points into Blaze and Tsunami because you get them immediately. The general idea of the Blaze is that it makes the enemy take more damage from you, and Tsunami is just super powerful, super early, and nice in AoE. Your two later on a little bit abilities will be Divine Wrath, which does a big AoE, and it can hit bosses, followed by Winter's Calling, which will help you get your state up. Needle Ice I simply use because it hits in front of me, like my other abilities. Explosion, something could be using later, works well with Needle Ice, and Elemental React. Elegance Touch, you only use this for speed. It gives you a 10% speed if you have talents put into it. That's the only reason you would use it when leveling up. Okay, so let's spawn some mobs, and I'll give you an idea of the combo that I like to run when I'm in my high level 30s to 40s. So we'll use Flame, then our weaker, Water, Divine Wrath. As you can see, they're already dead, so let's spawn in some more. This time we're going to throw out the Crystal. Needle, Fire, so as you can see, they die pretty quickly because they were always in front of me. So if I reset my cooldowns, I'll show you what I mean. You'll notice that all my abilities shoot out in front of me. That's the way you want to build your character because you're always going to be kiting mobs around. So for example, let's spawn some little mobs. What you're going to be doing in dungeons is you're going to lure them up. And you're going to dash and go through. And as they all get lured, there's going to be a lot of mobs in the dungeon. Fire, Tsunami, Ice, Explosion. They're all dead. So that's generally how you want to play. So you can use some of your talent points in lesser abilities. For example, there is Electric Globe, and there is a couple other abilities it could be using. But I don't generally recommend it. As long as you're using these top 4 abilities, in my opinion, the other 4 are kind of optional. And you can use whatever you want and just shift your abilities into them. Just keep in mind that this build is supposed to be based on unloading as much damage as you can immediately. What I mean by this is the big difference will be, let's say you walk up to a mob and you hit him once. See how they're not dead? Now you have to sit around and use another ability. However, if you use a more powerful ability, like Tsunami, one shot. So the key difference is between can you one-shot the mob or can you not one-shot the mob. That'll drastically increase your leveling speed. Okay, so now that we've looked at the leveling abilities, we're going to go and have a look at a build that you can use to help you clear cubes and chaos dungeons later on in the game. So let's look at the endgame AoE build for the chaos dungeons and the cube. So the abilities we're going to be using here will be Blaze. Blaze's main purpose is to do extra damage. So when you hit them, they'll then take extra damage from your abilities. It's not really AoE, it's just something you throw out in front of you at the beginning of the combo. Next up is Lightning Vortex. So Lightning Vortex will pull in all the mobs. So you want to run around, lure them all in, and get pulled into here into a central point. Once all the mobs are clumped up, then you got to unload your combo. Next up, we have Elemental React and Needle Ice, which basically just kind of filler abilities. You can really use any abilities for this if you want, but you'll note here that both abilities land at the same time. So the reason I like these 4 abilities is because of this. So we're going to use Tsunami, Inferno, Elemental React, Needle Ice after Lightning Vortex and Blaze. So summon him in, pull him in, Elemental, Ice, Pillar, Tsunami. Despite me getting hit just there, you saw I did a lot of upfront damage. So now we're going to use Gravitational, and then we're going to use Lightning. But we're not going to use Lightning until we go into our Unleashed state because it's more powerful and faster to cast. So we're going to Unleashed state, Lightning. As you can see, it does a lot of damage, and then we go back to the beginning of the combo. So let's try that with a slightly different monster. Hopefully something else spawns. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do here is we're going to fill the gauge. We're going to weaken him, pull him in, cube him, Ice him. Divine Wrath. Gravity. Get out of the way. Followed up by Ice and Fire. So it's really a nice AoE combo that you can use to wipe out both kind of stronger bosses in the Chaos Dungeon while doing unreal damage for the Cube or Chaos Dungeon. So you can change out Reverse Gravity or potentially Ice Needle, in my opinion, for other abilities if you like them, but they're just what I like to use. Okay, so this will do the base damage that you will require for the cube. So let's go through it with a lot of monsters so you can kind of see what it's like when you have a lot of things chasing you. So we'll spawn a bunch of named and a bunch of book. So this is what you're going to be like in the cube. So we're going to reset our cooldowns. Pull them all together. And as they're getting closer, gravitation. And there you go. The basic build for the Sorceress. Really easy, straightforward. Anyone can understand it and complete it really quickly. And best of all, this uses just enough talent points that you will have as soon as you hit level 50. So you don't need to farm to go get all these talent points to use this build. I will, of course, leave a link below the video as to the skill build, so you can put this in if you'd like to use this skill build. That covers everything you need to know for the Sorceress. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.